Hello, third grade. Happy Tuesday. Today we're going to be going over determining the themes, and we've talked about themes before, but now specifically we're going to look for themes in myths, fables, and folktales. So myths, fables, and folktales are all going to be really good stories that are made to entertain us, but they're also written to teach us something as well. So usually teach a lesson. So we're going to be trying to find that lesson in the stories that we read. So let's go over and review what is a theme. So a theme is going to be a key message or the lesson that the story is trying to teach us. Usually stories, they don't openly state their themes. So to find the theme or lesson of a story, we have to look at the main events, what's happening in the story. Use these events to make an educated guess. So we are going to be having to guess, and these are going to be called inferences. But we're not just randomly guessing. We're guessing after taking the events in the story to figure out which one makes the most sense. Why did the characters act the way they did? How did they grow? How did they change? What did they learn from this? Or what did I learn from reading this? Finally, we have to think about our inferences and apply it to the wider world. The story might suggest something about people in general, or it might give a lesson you can use in your own life. These ideas and lessons are themes of a story. So what we're learning from what we read is going to be our theme from today, right? So these are good stories meant to entertain us, but they're also here to teach us something. So the best way to do this is we're going to do some examples, talk through it, and figure out the best way to figure out a theme of what we read. So we're going to be reading right now about Little Red Riding Hood. Let's see if I can make this bigger. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, which usually helps me in reading, is it has what is the main theme or lesson of the fairy tale. I'm going to read what our options are first so I can look back at my story while I'm reading it and figure out which one makes sense. So the first one says, always listen to your parents. And the next one says, never go anywhere alone. All right, so those are our two lessons, themes. So let's figure out which one makes the most sense. We're going to make an inference, an educated guess after finding facts of the main events in our story. So Little Red Riding Hood. One day, Little Red Riding Hood's mother... let's start over. One day, Little Red Riding Hood's mother sent her to her grandmother's house with a basket of bread. She warned her daughter to go straight there and not talk to strangers. Along the way, Little Red Riding Hood met a wolf. Where are you headed? The wolf asked. To grandmother's house, said Little Red Riding Hood. Forgetting her mother's warning, she lives in the first house in the village. The clever wolf hurried to grandmother's house and gobbled her up. He put on her clothes and got into bed. Soon, Little Red Riding Hood arrived at the house and knocked. Come in, said the wolf in a high voice. Little Red Riding Hood saw that something was strange. Grandmother, what big teeth you have, she said. All better to eat you with, the wolf said, and he gobbled Little Red Riding Hood right up. All right, so that's our story, and we learned a lesson from that story. Did we learn to always listen to our parents or to never go anywhere alone? So now let's look back. So this is where we have to make an educated guess. They're not just going to give you the answer. You have to think about it. So right here, I'm looking at the top, and it said her mother sent her to the house and warned her to go straight there and not to talk to strangers. So again, already at the beginning of the story, her mother's telling her what to do. But the whole problem was, and we can find it here, forgetting her mother's warning, she didn't listen to her mother. She told the wolf exactly where she was headed. In the story, it never says anything about problems or teaching us not to go somewhere alone. It's just teaching us not to talk to strangers and tell them where we're going. So for the main lesson from this story that we can learn from is we should always listen to our parents. They always tell us what is best for us, so we want to make sure we listen to what they say. So that would be the main lesson, because in our story, Little Red Riding Hood, she didn't listen to her mother. And that's where things went wrong. When she didn't listen to her mother and the warning she gave, that's when she told the wolf where she was going. So now we think about, the first thing we're going to do is think about the events in the fairy tale. Little Red Riding Hood is told not to talk to strangers by her mom, but she talks to the wolf anyway and ends up being eaten. So now we're making an educated guess and an inference. Something bad happens to Little Red Riding Hood because she doesn't follow her mother's advice. So because she didn't listen to her mom and do what her mom said, she got eaten up. So when we apply this to the wider world and we're applying it to our lives, it's teaching us to always listen to our parents. If you feel comfortable, then go on to iExcel and start your homework. But if not, we're going to go through another example and talk through it as well. So we're going with the tortoise and the hare, which means this video will be a little longer. So if you feel really confident and comfortable, you can go straight to homework. If you want a little more help, stay here and let's talk through another example. There was once a hare who boasted, so bragged, about how quickly he could run. He was always teasing the tortoise because the tortoise moved so much slower. "You say you are very quick," said the tortoise. "How about a race to prove it?" The rabbit agreed, and the two set out at the same time. The hare was soon far ahead of the tortoise. "Surely I have enough time to rest by this rock," the hare thought. "That slow turtle will never catch up." So he rested and soon fell asleep. The tortoise continued moving, slowly making his way to the finish line. The hare woke up with a start and began to run towards the finish line. But it was too late. He found the tortoise waiting there for him. The slow tortoise had beaten the speedy hare. So now, what did we learn from this? Hard work is more important than talent. Or if you believe you can do something, it is more likely to happen. All right, so let's talk through both of our examples. Hard work is more important than talent. Well, the tortoise won because the tortoise put in the hard work and kept working to get to the finish line. But the hare was faster. But the hare was boasting and fell asleep and ended up losing because they weren't focused on just doing the race. So I would say that would be a pretty good one because they're talking about how hard work is really good, and the tortoise showed hard work, and the tortoise ended up winning with hard work. So if you believe you can do something, it is more likely to happen. Well, the tortoise never sat there saying, "I believe I can win." The tortoise just said, "How about a race to prove it?" And the hare kept believing he could win, but then he didn't. So this wouldn't really apply to the lesson that we can learn from this. Hard work is more important than talent would be the lesson we can learn and apply it to our lives. All right, so that is it for today. So take your time reading, talk through each answer, figure out which one makes the most sense. Remember, the answer is not going to jump out at you. We have to make an educated guess. All right, thank you and have a great day, third grade.